Yeah, I thought about you today. You came across my head. So.
Good evening. This is Claudia Moss with Book Bytes here on YouTube on my channel, Claudia's Universe. And it is my wonderful pleasure to have with me tonight the author, Myron O. Brown Sr. And I am talking with him about his process with creating, with the author, D.J. Williams, the book, The Juan and Only. And you can see the Juan, Juan, like the Spanish spelling, it's not the one and only, but the Juan and only, but the concept will be the same as far as similar, the one and only.
That's
Now,
real good symbolism on that one.
oh, thank you. And with me tonight, with Myron, is my cousin, Helen Lindsay. Now, Myron, so wonderful to have you here, and Helen. And Myron, I would like to begin by having you to share with our audience a bit about who you are and how you came to this wonderful book project.
Well, first of all, Helen and Claudia, thank you so much for having me as a star shining in Claudia's universe. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to meet with you and with your audience. And
yes, you are
I'm
a star, love.
really excited for the opportunity to speak with you about the one and only, the life of an ebony man. It's a very, very exciting project that I've collaborated on with the co-author Don Juan, aka DJ Williams. And let me give you some background about myself, and I'll also give you some background about the co-author Don Juan Williams. I am a retired U.S. Army veteran. I spent 15 years in the Army.
Amen. Yes.
I'm a graduate of DePaul University, and I received my Bachelor's of Arts in English from DePaul University. And I'm also a graduate of the University of Phoenix, where I earned my master's degree in information systems management. So my kids call me the original Steve Urkel.
I hope you don't look like that.
My real passion, besides information technology and communications engineering, has been writing. I've been writing since I was 7 years old, writing poems and short stories, and that has translated over into my professional life, where I had the opportunity to meet Don Juan through a mutual acquaintance that he and I both have. Don Juan Williams, who is also a U.S. Army veteran himself, a retired U.S. Army veteran. He spent 28 years in the Army. He spent 12 years active duty and 16 years Army Reserves. He's a retired U.S. Army warrant officer. And how we met through our mutual acquaintance, through the course of his life, he had written about 9 years of memoirs based on his personal and professional life. And he, through our mutual acquaintance, needed someone to help him originally just to edit his memoirs. Yes. But after taking his original manuscript and reading it, I saw where there would be some opportunity to create an even bigger story based on his personal and professional life, add a little spice to it, and create this magnificent biofiction. Originally, when he came up with the idea to create a book about his life, he wanted it to be a biography, but after writing these memoirs and meeting with a focus group comprised of an audience of 95% women, those women in that focus group recommended that he create a biofiction rather than a biography, because as a former 3-term mayor of Glenarden, Maryland, he still has aspirations to re-enter the political arena in some capacity later on.
In Glenarden or somewhere?
Glenarden, Maryland is a city in Prince George's County, Maryland, which is very, very close to the Washington, D.C., Maryland border. And he's born and raised in Glenarden, and through his life of growing up as a child and going to college,
Yes.
gradually he saw himself in a professional capacity wanting to participate in politics. Majored in political science and received his master's degree. And then after completing his undergraduate and graduate studies, he gradually became involved in local politics in the state of Maryland. So he went from being a social worker with the State Department of Health and Human Services to running for and winning a seat on the Glenarden City Council. He served 3 terms with the Glenarden City Council, and then as ambition and professionalism grew, he decided, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and I'm going to run for mayor of Glenarden. So in 1995, he won the election as the youngest mayor in the city's history. In 1995, he was 33 years old and was elected mayor.
Wow.
After that, he decided to run again, and the next thing you know, he became a 3-term mayor in the city of Glenarden.
Now, had that been done before, or was there a stipulation that after 3 times you couldn't run again?
It had never been done before, and it's funny that you mentioned that, Claudia. After winning and serving his 3rd consecutive term as mayor, the Glenarden City Council passed a statute prohibiting anyone from running for and serving 3 terms as mayor.
Oh.
So basically, they established that statute to prevent him from running for and winning a 4th term.
That's right. They did. Okay.
So moving forward into the story about his life, once he was elected to his 1st term, released to Johnson Publishing Company, the Jet Ebony magazine folks, to announce that he had won the election to be included in their annual edition where they would have a census of African American and Latino politicians. But he missed the cutoff to be included in that edition by about 3 or 4 days.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So essentially what the folks at Johnson Publishing did, they said, we're going to keep your press release on file. We'll include you in the next year's edition because you just won your seat as mayor. So he went about his business of running city government and thought nothing of it. So several months later, he received a phone call and a letter in the mail. Okay, we're talking 1995, 96. So this is pre-internet. So the social media craze and the information superhighway was really in its beginning stages. So all of the correspondence between himself and Johnson Publishing was by phone call and by snail mail, U.S. Postal Service. So he receives this information via phone call and letter asking him to be included in the 100 most eligible bachelor's edition of Ebony magazine, which is one of the stalemate editions of the magazine. And he was confused about that because he had never submitted any information to be included in that particular edition of the magazine. So he asked them, well, why did you send me this information? Because I didn't apply to be included in it. And they reminded him that when he submitted his initial press release, when he won the election, that they still kept his information on file in their database. And they looked at the biographical data in that press release, and it said, okay, marital status is single. So they said, Mayor Williams, are you still single? He said, well, yes, I am. They said, well, we're not going to worry about the census of African American and Latino politicians. We've got something bigger in store for you. And this edition of being included in the 100 most eligible bachelors essentially is going to change your life, which it did. And that brings us to the point where we are now, where we're talking about it because we've written a book about how that particular edition of Ebony magazine completely changed his life.
Yes, it did. I mean, it changed it so much so until it came with like a plethora of lessons that he could share with other people, it was so inculcating to a certain extent, both for life and for romance. Now, let me just say this, Myron. Is it true indeed that he received like 3,000 responses from different women who wanted to meet him once he became an Ebony Essence magazine?
Claudia, Helen, when you are thrust into a period where you experience something that's totally life-changing,
Yes.
a lot of people say, well, I've received a life-changing, life-altering experience. This one is like Hiroshima or Nagasaki. A nuclear bomb just blew up in Donjuan's life.
Wow.
Because once he was included in that edition and he participated in the most eligible bachelor's edition of Ebony magazine, he received almost 3,500 letters, postcards,
pictures,
videotapes. And in those letters, there were pictures, many of which were very provocative, very revealing.
Yes.
And the videos were even more so.
Wow.
So what we did, we took his life from 1995 until about 2003.
Yes.
And we put that together and we wrote this book, The One and Only, The Life of an Ebony Man. And it gives a timeline of very, very interesting events that took place in DJ's life. And again, I want to stress, this is biofiction.
Yes.
So the entertainment value is literally through the roof. This book will make you laugh. It'll make you cry. It will certainly infuriate you. But most importantly, it will rivet the reader where once you pick this book up, you can't put it down. And Claudia, as one of our readers, you can attest to your audience once you started reading it and you saw the life that he lived, you really weren't able to put that book down.
You just kept going and going because the questions are there and you're like, what's going to happen next? And not only that, I was like, who is he going to meet next? That was great. And you know what, Myron? It has indeed a cinematic appeal where I could see it on the silver screen with the viewer in the chair sitting there going, I wonder who's going to come into his life. I wonder which one is going to play a part and what lesson it will be learned or look, will the next one be a love connection? Oh my goodness. I just love the array of women that walked through his life.
The roller coaster that I took the reader on, DJ and I, gives you a complete perspective of the human side of a man who went through life to serve people as a public servant, as a politician, as a civic leader, who through trial and error, at the end of the day, really wanted to find love.
Yes.
But to quote Eddie Murphy in his characterization of buckwheat, wookin' panub in all the wrong places.
Oh.
and sometimes we have, through trial and error, you look for something and you don't find it. But ultimately, the lessons that we learn makes us more acute and more in tune to who we are and how we impact other people's lives. Yeah. And these are one of the most profound lessons that DJ learned in his role as not just a civic leader and a public servant, but as a man.
Yes.
And, you know, he wanted more than anything else to be in love with someone, to be monogamous and be a married man, to live the dream of having a wife and kids, picket fence, and of course, being a civic leader. His ultimate goal in his professional career is he wants to be the governor of the state of Maryland. So through those trials and tribulations of life, and he had went through a whole gamut of emotions in meeting many, many women. Like I said, he received almost 3,500 forms of communication. He may have met about 1,500 women, and let's just say a lot of those women were very captivating and very riveting in their own sense. And he may have dated about 500 or 600.
Oh my goodness! Look, 500 or 600 over the course of
8 years.
Like 8. Okay, 8 years. Okay.
Yeah, between
That's
1995 and 2003.
Okay.
But
that's
not all of these communications, not all of these relationships ended up in a physical capacity. He dated many. He communicated with some. Many are platonic, and many of which he still maintains casual friendships with to this day. And some of the women that he met and had the pleasure of becoming intimate with, and some not intimate, have contributed to the creation of this book, and he received permission from them to be included in the book. Now, the names were changed to protect the innocent, of course, but some of the women that he did have the pleasure of becoming friends with and developing personal relationships with actually provided some editorial content in the creation of the book.
Now, that's what I was curious about as well. I was wondering if some of the women gave him the idea or presented the idea to him to create a focus group, or where did that idea come from? Because I love that idea. As a writer, I am always seeking beta readers, and beta readers help a writer kind of stay on point when they read your material and tell you, okay, this works, that doesn't, because you're so connected with the work sometimes you can't really stand back like they can and see it. So I wondered if some of the women were friends enough to say, do this, do that, or what. Because I knew he was creating more or less like types of women that he had come into contact with to create all of the women who walked through his life.
Well, with respect to some of the women that were included in the creation of this project.
Yes.
As far as editorial creation.
Yes.
What they did was, in collaborating with him, they put together events that took place in their lives as a relationship between two people. And what I did was I created stories based on facts. So they presented information based on their interaction with DJ in their relationships as friends or in relationships that went beyond being platonic.
Yes.
And then I created the stories.
Okay, I wondered about that.
He had facts. He put together memoirs based on his relationships, and then elicited feedback from the women, and they presented from their perspective. And then I took them and I wove them together, and then I created stories based on those events that they both mutually participated in their lives together. Oh, and then after we created each chapter, what we did was we shared the chapters with the women as proofreaders, as quality assurance analysts, if you will, and they approved it, they liked it, they loved it. They were to the point where they were really amazed at how I took those stories, and part of a biofiction, you can take facts and you can sensationalize a story to make it even more appealing to a reader, to make them not only want to pick it up and read it, but not put it down until they have completely finished the project. And that's what I did with the One and Only. So he shared those with the ladies. They liked it, they loved it, and they just were completely in awe of how I created these stories based on facts that they encountered in their relationships with Don. And we just kept going with it. And once we went from one chapter to the next, each scenario, each situation that he encountered had its own twists, its own turns, its own innuendos. And through trial and error, not everything is great. In everything in life, good and bad, we have to aspire to learn, to grow, and to continue to move on with life. And that's how we created this project.
I see. I was wondering, that was one of my questions, and you answered it beautifully about the process of creation with two creative people working together on this story. How did you work together to bring it about, to manifest it? And I see now that definitely worked.
And I also want to add, before we continue, in the fact that this is a biofiction, not everything in this book is exclusively based on DJ. There are certain elements to this book that I contributed based on my own experiences. But the reader will never know what elements of the story are based on Don Juan's life or what elements of the story are based on mine. Only Don Juan and I know.
Clever, very clever.
And that's where we have the intrigue associated with this project.
Yes, yes.
That was very smart. Very smart.
Whose hand stirred in most of the humor? Was it yours or DJ?
Mine.
Okay, because the humor is definitely
See,
there.
DJ being, of course, a public servant and a politician, he has a fantastic sense of humor. He's a very, very funny and very engaging man. But as a writer, that's always been one of my great passions in life, is to create stories. And this was a wonderful opportunity for me as a writer to have the opportunity to write about someone else's life.
Yes, indeed, because that would have made the biographical part of it, because you would have been writing about his life. And I just love the term biofiction, because that's exactly what you all did there, was to create that biofiction.
And once you read this book, and once anyone else picks up this book and reads it,
yes,
I created it with the specific mission of creating a hybrid between three of the most popular movies / books of our time.
Interesting.
And I'll ask you this, and then you can give me your feedback. This book, The One and Only, is a hybrid between Boomerang, Pulp Fiction, and 50 Shades of Grey. So for me, The One and Only is a black version of 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh.
Okay, so with 50 Shades of Grey, you have the wealthy gentleman imposing his sexual will on the young woman. But and it was only one young woman, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so with The One and Only, you have one gentleman very much in the spotlight with the political scene, but you have just the how should we say? I don't want to say a conveyor. No, not even a conveyor belt.
You're walking into a greenhouse and you're picking flowers.
That's a good way to look at it. Like wait a minute, Myron. A hot house. Beautiful flowers, and you don't know which one to pick next. I mean, they're all intoxicating, because the women that I reading about, I'm just amazed with one after the other. They all have something that makes you go, and you're taking in a whiff of their perfume, and you're looking at the petals, and the petals are velvety and beautiful. So he's just inundated with this hot house of flowers. Yes, A greenhouse. That's a great one. That's a great analogy for that. Now, tell me about Boomerang, because Boomerang is the love story with Eddie Murphy.
Yes. And the reason why I used the analogy of Boomerang is because in that particular plot and subplots, Marcus Graham, Eddie Murphy's primary character,
Yes.
could not commit to any one woman, but there were so many women who were attracted to him, and he being attracted to them. That's the analogy that I bring, because as DJ met these women, he was attracted to them. They were certainly enamored with him.
Yes.
But his primary agenda was to meet someone and engage in a monogamous relationship, but it could never, ever turn out to be that way, with the exception of Chapter 2. Chapter 2 was really, for me, the turning point in his life, because the primary woman in his life was named Ashley, but she had some problems with him being included in that edition of Ebony magazine at first, even though before he did it, he asked her, "What do you think about my involvement in this particular edition of the magazine?" And she felt very supportive of him, because she felt that it would be a great turning point for him in expanding his political and professional horizons. But one of the small subplots in that particular chapter was his administrative assistant submitted the press release to Johnson Publishing Company, but in that press release, it asked, "What type of women do you prefer?" And that kind of got him in trouble, because he didn't have a preference, because he was already involved with someone. But he was too busy to fill out the information in that press release himself, so he asked his administrative assistant to do it for him.
Right.
And she submitted in that press release the type of women that he preferred, and that kind of got him in trouble, because Ashley didn't approve of that once she read the article. And she didn't really, let's just say she was not pleased. But moving on through that chapter, she accepted it, she moved on with it, but subsequently, as they were involved in the relationship,
yes.
She had contracted breast cancer, and eventually she passed away from the disease. But even though they kind of moved away from each other as an intimate and sentimental relationship, they remained friends up until the point when she passed away. But Don Juan was in love with her, and she did love him, but there was a distinct age difference between the two of them. She was 7 years older than DJ.
Okay.
And even though he wanted to marry her, she kind of pumped the brakes on him, because at that time, she had just gotten out of a marriage herself, and she had some cold feet about committing to him in a marriage herself.
I can understand that. And plus you had the age difference where she might have been.
Age difference, yeah. And she had 2 children, 2 sons, and they loved Don. They were very, very much impressed and very close to him, but even though they broke up, he still maintained a good relationship with her sons and a very close relationship with her up until the point when she passed away from breast cancer. But that was really one of the turning points in his life, and I tell him all the time, had she not passed away from breast cancer, there's a very good chance, and he agreed, that they probably would have ended up eventually getting married, because even though she had cold feet initially, and they broke up, they still were very, very close. So had that happened, had they gotten married, I wouldn't be talking to you right now, because this book would have never been written.
Yes. You're saying that their love would have brought them back, would have brought them together to hurdle.
Yeah, because Don Juan really, really, truly loved Ashley. He did.
Now look, give me one item about Don Juan's preference when they asked him for the survey about the women that made Ashley that perturbed her a bit? Was it that he said he wanted a woman of a certain color? Or, what was it that made her say, well, wait a minute, I don't like this?
Well, one of the things that she found disturbing was the fact that he responded to the question itself.
Okay.
How can you say what type of women do you prefer when you're already involved with me?
Okay.
And from her perspective, that question should have been answered with, I've already found the woman of my dreams and I'm already involved with her. But because his administrative assistant took it and ran with it, because, Don Juan was a former college athlete. He played college basketball. So she came to the conclusion or assumption that he likes women who are athletic, which he does, and women who are very professional and very strong, which he does.
Correct.
So when she answered that question, that's what really got her feathers ruffled. The fact that the question was answered with specific details about what type of women he preferred when he was already involved with her to begin with.
And I'm sure that added to her insecurities.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
But that's interesting. That's very, very interesting. But wait a minute. Roxy, is that the one? Roxy. The one. Now Roxy was
Roxy was in chapter 4.
Now, okay, so I found Roxy intriguing because Roxy could speak Spanish, and let me see, she was physically fit.
Roxy was a professional bodybuilder, and she owned her own gym.
Right. I love that. And I love that Roxy was bisexual.
Yes.
Because it just brought in the different aspects of women, that they weren't all heterosexual.
Yes. Yes. And I'm going to, just because you are a big supporter and one of our biggest advocates, I will give you a little bit of intel.
Okay.
Roxy was somebody that I knew. Roxy was somebody that I was involved with.
Oh my God!
So that wasn't DJ, that was me.
Okay.
And I'll give you and Helen some more in-depth intel since it's just us. The sexual escapades in that book were not Don Juan, they were me.
Hold on. I couldn't hear that last part.
The sexual escapades in that book were not Don Juan, that was me.
Oh, okay.
All of it
Okay.
was me.
Hold it down. Hold it down. That's what's up.
Okay.
Helen, I saw you giving me a pound there, virtual by cyberspace. Thanks for that pound. Helen, I don't know if you've read the book yet, but
I haven't. And
Claudia, please go to our website, www.thejuanandonly.online, and show us some love. Okay, Helen, you down there in the ATL, right?
No, I'm in Winston-Salem now, but I'm going back to the ATL.
Oh, you're in North Click.
No.
Okay, so you know how hot fish grease is, right?
No. Let me clarify.
Oh, you're in Fairfax. Okay, you're close.
No, I said, let me clarify. I'm originally from Winston-Salem, but I've been away from Winston-Salem for almost 30 years. I came back to Winston-Salem. I think I had a midlife crisis. And so I came back and was thinking I would, bond with my family, and that didn't work out. So I'm heading back to Atlanta only because of the mindset of the people around here. And it bothers me when I see our African Americans behave as the things that they don't want to be depicted as. So yeah, I just feel too much of that, and that upsets me and kind of throws me into a depression because people need to be productive in life as a black man, So
well, what I wanted to say is this book is hotter than fish grease, and you know how hot it is to cook fish. Well, that's how hot this book is.
Oh, wow.
So Myron, which one?
Let me go to that website right now. Hold on.
So Myron, which one of the women? Or it might be two. I don't know, three. Which story was the most challenging to write, and which one was a favorite? What were your favorites?
The most challenging was chapter 2, because that was really DJ's life, and
Okay.
that was his first real love affair. It was Ashley.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? Can I get your website again, real quickly?
www. Dot JUAN and only dot online. And on the website, you'll see the cover picture with DJ's photo.
And that's dot what? You said dot CON?
www.JUAN and only dot online.
Oh, I hadn't heard of that online. Wow. Okay, go ahead. I got you.
Okay, so chapter 2 was a very pivotal moment in Don's life, because that was where he put his heart and soul on the line in this relationship, and it really didn't work out as he had hoped.
Yes.
That was a pivotal period for him, because that really propelled him into truly becoming the Ebony Man, because after that relationship did not work, then he found himself like Roy Ayers, searching.
Yes.
And through those odysseys of going from meeting people who had different agendas than his own, because in chapter 4 he met a lady who was very nice, very erotic, very sensual, but she gave him an ultimatum. She said, well, they became intimate. They was very hot, very tumultuous, but at the end of the day, she had a different agenda, because after they had been intimate and he went back to see her again, she told him, well, we're not going to have sex again until you put a ring on my finger. So that's not how you go about pursuing someone with the intent of having an everlasting relationship. So at that point, they broke up, and then that's when he met Roxy.
That's right.
For me as a writer, I don't have to tell you, the most exciting and the most entertaining part of the book was Roxy.
Oh, yes. Yes. Roxy had her girlfriend with her. Brought her in the scene like, hey girl, come on.
Yep. So that was fun. That was a lot of fun, because that allowed me to go into the time machine, so to speak, and relive some events that took place in my life. And this book is like, the old sisters would sit down and create a quilt, and everybody creates a piece of that quilt.
Yes.
Well, that's how this book was written, because there are pieces of his life, there are pieces of my life, but nobody knows what piece belongs to whom.
Right,
except for you and Helen, because I just gave you all a little piece of whose life is what.
You told us that, and it ends up that you are.
But one of the most compelling parts of the book, and I'm going to jump ahead, Claudia.
Yes.
Chapter 9.
Yes.
Where he did get married.
Ooh, yes.
Well, he didn't get married. He was engaged. That woman, that really happened to Don. Chapter 9 and chapter 10, that really happened.
Now,
that's not biofiction. That is actual fact.
That's the Denise character.
Yes.
Okay.
That really happened to him. He met this woman not knowing she was a pimp.
Wow.
And then when they went out on some dates, he went home with her to Chicago. And she said, I want to take you somewhere. And they went out, and she went into this bar. And in Chicago, I'm from Chicago, they have a lot of bars. They don't call them bars, they call them taverns. Went into this bar, and she snapped her fingers, and like 10 women just came out of nowhere and started paying her money. And Don couldn't believe this. And she told him, well, I have a part of my life that I have concealed from you that I want to admit to you what's going on. He had never heard of a woman pimp. And at that time, it dawned on him, I'm engaged to a woman pimp. So that's not biofiction. That's fact. That really happened to him.
Okay.
And in chapter 10, when he finally met someone that he had known all his life,
yes,
they grew up together, they went to the same church together, they got married, and that was the ticking time bomb that blew up in his face because the woman really was not the best thing for him.
Oh, no.
He was still in the military, mind you. He was about to be deployed to go to Iraq, and she was just the quintessential gold digger. She looked at his political career. She looked at the ambitions of her own agenda, and she didn't even see him off. He's going off to battle, going off to war, not knowing if she'll ever see him again. She didn't even go to meet him at the airport to see him off.
That's right.
And then when he got back, it got back to him that she was trying to have him killed.
Oh, she was definitely
for the
working
insurance money.
Yes, she was.
But see, DJ, even, and you know, politicians, they have a dark side.
As we all do.
There were people in his life that were truly looking out for his best interest, and that's where the, you know, chapter 10 talks about his guardian angel.
Yes.
And his guardian angel was a friend of his who he did have a relationship with, but they remained friends in spite of going their separate ways. Well, she found it in herself to find some people to protect DJ. And I'm not going to give it too much away because Helen got to go out there and buy the book, and then she can email me questions about what in the heck am I reading. But Helen, let's just say Don Juan's guardian angel protected him, and I'm not going to tell you anymore because you got to go buy a book to find out how his guardian angel protected him.
Okay. And we also have to.
But let's just say at the end of chapter 10,
to me too. Yeah,
that marriage ended up in an annulment.
That's right.
And he continued on with his life.
Now that's the one he ran her out of town, didn't he? With
he didn't run her out of town. His guardian angel did.
That's right. Somebody did. I remember.
Oh yeah.
He gave her the ultimatum. Gave her the ultimatum. Okay.
Yep. Do you remember that movie New Jack City?
Yes.
Do you remember when they had that guy upside down over a bridge?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say nothing else. Helen, go buy the book.
Yes.
I do remember that scene very, very, I mean, as if it was just yesterday. I mean, yeah, that fool was, he was.
You know what happens when you reap what you sow?
Yeah.
DJ's wife reaped what she sowed.
She did that. She absolutely did.
And that's one of the most painful parts of that book because, again, Claudia, that really happened to him. That was not biofiction. And that's one of the most hurtful things in the world when you love somebody and they really don't love you, and then you find it out the hard way.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
And we're talking about a U.S. Army war veteran knowing that you're married to a woman that's trying to kill you. So the part about him sleeping in bed with a rifle right next to him, that's not fiction. Because he didn't know when it was coming, who it was coming from, or if it was going to happen at all.
Wow. Wow. We got to leave that for the readers to get the book and read it for themselves and fall into that fascinating world of Don Juan and the one and only. Oh, my goodness. It is just just with so many twists and turns and characters. Let me move us along to how did you come to present before the Daughters of ISIS? Were
The
you
Daughters
there?
of ISIS?
Were you there, Myron? When or did DJ go himself to the book club? Isn't it the name of the book club, the DOI book club?
The DOI, that's Bren's book club.
Yes.
And
How did you?
she founded that book club. I think Bren founded that book club in 1984. And
Yes, I remember.
Bren and Mike are old family friends of my wife and I. We've known them for about 20 years, actually longer than that almost. And as I wrote this book, and I think Bren, Bren and Mike, we go back so long. We know so much about each other. When I told her I'm writing a book, she said, "Are you serious?"
Oh.
And I knew she had a book club, but she's like, and she was teasing me. She said, "Well, if your book is good enough, I'm going to have a reading for you in front of my book club." So I told her, well, I'm going to put my foot on this because I know, Bren is an avid reader. She is a very, very strong literary presence in the DC community. And after I wrote the book, she was one of the first people to read it, and she was astounded. So she said, I'm definitely going to have a reading with you and Donjuan with this book club, The Daughters of ISIS. So, that almost brought tears to my eyes because I know how Bren is, and Bren is all business. She's a lawyer, so, lawyers are all business.
Yes, indeed.
And if you've got their attention, you've done something good, and that really, really made me feel good, Claudia. And knowing your relationship with her and knowing that you're not only an author yourself, but a nationally acclaimed book critic, she said, "Well, you got to give me a copy of this so I can send it to Claudia." And I'm like, "Please do, please do." Like Spike Lee, please, baby, please.
Look, it's wonderful that you mentioned Spike Lee because my next question segues into the film aspect. Have you started writing a screenplay for the book?
I haven't started yet, but as you can attest, being an author yourself, the way I wrote this, it is perfectly adaptable to be converted into a screenplay, and that was my ultimate dream.
Yes, it is.
To be a screenwriter, to write a screenplay, and I have reached out to some folks that I know in LA, and one of the people that I've been talking to in social media, and he's like a mentor of mine, is the great Reggie Hudlin.
Okay.
And it's difficult to get someone's attention when they're so high up in the food chain.
Oh, goodness.
And their business initiatives are so vast and diverse. But I've been talking to Reggie for a number of years. And, Reggie Hudlin is a piece of African-American history himself.
Yes.
He wrote the screenplay, directed and produced Boomerang for Eddie Murphy. He wrote, directed, and produced all the House Party movies with Kid and Play and Robin Harris and Bernie Mac. The cartoon Bebe Kids, he wrote the screenplay, and he did all the animation because Reggie Hudlin is also an artist, a comic artist.
That's
amazing. So he did that for Robin Harris. He wrote and directed the screenplay for the TV series Everybody Hates Chris.
Oh, wow.
And you remember that movie Django Unchained with Leonardo DiCaprio and Jamie Foxx? Well, he co-wrote the screenplay for that, and he co-produced Django.
Wow.
Wow.
So he's like a mentor of mine. And, more importantly, on a much higher scale, Reggie Hudlin is now a piece of African-American history because he was the first African-American to produce the Oscars. He produced the Oscars this past February.
I didn't know that. Awesome.
Yep. So I've been talking to him for a few years, and I've been trying to get audience with him to read this book, but he's got a pile of screenplays on his desk and scripts that he's reading right now.
I can believe
So,
it.
his time is, there's not enough hours in a day for him, but hopefully here within the very near future, he'll have the time to read my book. But that would be the apex of my professional career as a writer, to have him convert my book into a screenplay, because the movies that he has produced and directed, this would be a no-brainer for him, because and see, the way I wrote it, it impacted me the way he wrote, directed, and produced Boomerang, because there's humor in it. It's very sensual. It's very erotic, but there are also lessons in each chapter. And I wrote it with the premise of not just entertaining and making someone laugh, but as an African-American man, it was very important for me to captivate and educate an audience with a message that's very real, that can be applied to their own lives.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So that takes me to at least 3 of the messages, because I know you have, even not only at the end of the chapters, but at the end of the book, with those 3 predominant reminders to the reader, and one being, be mindful of what you ask for.
Yes.
So maybe take your top 3, and before we get out of here, give us those top 3 lessons you would want viewers to get, and readers to get, after they finish the reading of it, because people will look at this video as they pass, because it'll be recorded on YouTube. So what top 3 lessons?
Well, Don Juan's number 1 message in the Juan and Only is, be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. In his trials and tribulations and meeting many women from all walks of life, and we're talking about women from all over the world, it was so overwhelming that he couldn't even believe that a little 14-year-old pizza-faced kid with bad acne, that girls wouldn't give him the time of day if they had an armful of watches. And he ends up becoming one of the most eligible bachelors in the country. What'd you say, Helen?
I said, I like that. I'm going to keep that in mind. That was a nice catchphrase. But actually, a crack with a crack.
Yep, so that's number 1. Be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. Number 2, for me, as co-author, and Don, he concurs with me on this, at the end of the day, in spite of all those incredible women who touched his life and he touched theirs, and in various aspects he touched something else, the most important relationship above all is monogamy. And I can attest to that personally, because I've been married 23 years. And in spite of being able to write a book of this magnitude, I'm a happily married man, and the most beautiful flower in the garden of life is my wife, Rashetta.
Oh, that is so sweet.
I put nothing comes above her. There's nobody better than her. And she is the sun that lights my earth.
Nice imagery.
So that's number 2. Number 3, and that was the last chapter, because the last chapter had nothing to do with the Ebony Man chapter. The last chapter was the most profound message to anyone and everyone who reads the book. And I wrote that, and DJ and I collaborated on that chapter because we wanted to communicate to the men, and we wanted to communicate to the women. And to the men, we communicated, if you want somebody to love you, more importantly, you have to love yourself.
Yes.
And the only way you can show that you love yourself is by respecting yourself. And I know you can agree with me, Claudia, about how some of our brothers project themselves in this world, walking around with their pants hanging all off of them, their drawers are showing. and even to the point where a lot of these men, and you know, I have much respect for all races, all genders, all forms of sexual orientation. You can love who you want to love.
Yes.
But I have a big problem in Don Juan being a career public servant as an African-American man in a world that doesn't view us in a very positive light. And you only have to look at what's going on in this election to figure that out. Mm-hmm. That black men, if you want to be respected in this world, you have to earn respect. And, you know, it's a twofold process. As African Americans, both men and women, respect is not only earned, but to a varying degree, particularly in a professional environment, you can't earn respect. You got to take it. But the only way that you're going to get it is by showing that you deserve it. So that's how we wrote that last chapter, to send a message to men. If you want somebody to love you, you have to love yourself. And more importantly, if you want somebody to love you, you have to know how to love somebody else in order to receive it back.
Yes, yes, indeed. So that made it entertaining, didactic, and just perfect for today's audiences who want to know about relationships and someone going through the process of experiencing different relationships.
Right. And the same holds true for women, because women, if you want someone to love you, if you want a man, and not everybody out here is Michael Jordan, not everybody out here is Derek Jeter, not everybody out here is Denzel Washington, you know, not everybody out here is Blair Underwood. If you want a good man, there are good men out here, but you have to know how to present yourself and love yourself to show that you are worthy of being loved. You know, we hear sisters out here all the time talk about there are no good black men out here. Black men, you're not this. Black men, you're not that. But in order to attract a flower, you have to be a bee that knows how to go out and pollinate and cultivate and grow a relationship that can become something everlasting.
Oh, amen. You better preach that.
And I'm speaking from personal experience, because I grew up in a single parent home. You know, my mother raised me by herself, and that was really part of the most profound impact on her life as a mother, raising a black man in this world. I knew what kind of love a woman needed based on the kind of love that my mother never got. So that's lesson number 3.
I see. Beautiful.
Repeat that again. Repeat that. That was just so profound. Repeat that for me, please. That was just, oh my God. Just repeat that, please.
The woman that raised me, my mother's Jamaican. So needless to say, she was beyond strict. So, and my father was a career military man. He was married to the Army. So when I was growing up in the 60s, my father was in Vietnam. I didn't see him much. So growing up without my father in my life, I saw every tear. I saw every heartache. And I saw the pain that my mother had to deal with. And we're talking about the 60s, and we all know how rough the 60s were on us as a people. So seeing the pain and living and experiencing that pain, that taught me what kind of man I needed to be to find a woman that would deserve the kind of love that my mother never got. And that's what made me the man that I am today.
That is profound. And that is a part of what makes you the man who loves your wife in the way that you love her today.
It truly does.
Helen, what other, do you have any questions at this point for Myron about the one and only, The Life of an Ebony Man?
Excuse me. I'm just like, I can't wait to get the book. I really cannot wait to read about this man. Trust me, it's very intriguing just listening to you, Myron, talking about it. And I must get this overnighted or whatever to me. So I can.
Well, when you go online to buy the book, Helen, I'll overnight it to you, because the way we have the website set up, 24 hours after you send your payment, we're self-published. So we do all of the shipping. Donjuan and I, we do the shipping ourselves.
Okay.
And that was another challenge. And being a writer, being an author yourself, Claudia, that's one of our challenges. And actually, now that we've gotten to know each other, you're kind of a mentor of sorts for me too, because you've penned several publications yourself. And as we get to know each other more, I'll look to you for guidance, because the way we wrote this book, Amazon wanted 70% of our royalties to use their worldwide network.
That's
and
correct.
Barnes & Noble wanted 60%. So we decided we're going to self-publish. We have our financial services account set up through PayPal, so PayPal handles all the financials, but we do all the shipping and receiving ourselves. And that's a difficult challenge from a business perspective, and we could talk about that offline, because there's a lot of questions I have, because I'm writing another book right now as we speak, and it's a murder mystery. I'm not going to go into too much detail right now, but it's a murder mystery. And eventually, like I said, Donjuan's a political consultant, so right now he is extremely busy working on multiple campaigns with a lot of political candidates here in the Maryland, D.C. area, helping them to prepare for elections, and some who are incumbents who are trying to get reelected and keep their seats.
Yes.
So DJ's working with a lot of local politicians here in the DMV area right now. But eventually we're going to make our collective efforts, and we're going to write a sequel to the One and Only. And if you see the dynamic in the first project, it was based on his personal life.
Yes.
The second book will be based exclusively on his professional life, and from a business perspective and from a promotional perspective, it's going to be completely based on politics, and that will be an educational book. It's going to be biofiction, but it's going to teach the reader, and from an African-American perspective, a lot of our people really aren't in tune with the political landscape that surrounds the people who are in charge of controlling, implementing, and executing policy that controls their lives. And as a career politician, that's important for DJ to get his personal and professional message out in the world of local politics. So that's going to be our second project together.
So would your first book lead you into thinking that there's going to be something else coming out later on? Is it going to drag you along?
In the One and Only, at the end, it talks about how the second book is going to be coming out and how it will be exclusively based on his life and his role as a politician, and how politics has a very profound impact on the African American community.
Right. Okay. My battery is about to die. I've got like 3%. So how much longer are we going to be on the phone?
We are about to say thank you right now. So your battery is right on time.
Thank you, ladies, so much. I'm truly blessed and highly favored to meet and speak with you both on the One and Only, on behalf of DJ Williams, who is a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, and myself, being a member of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity incorporated, and I'm also a Prince Hall Freemason.
Wow.
I'm very blessed to be in your company this evening, and I thank you all so much for spending time with me this evening to talk about the book and future projects that we have coming down the pipe.
I'm honored. I'm very honored to have been able to talk with you and converse with you and exchange thoughts and everything with you. So thank you very much for.
The pleasure and privilege was truly mine, Helen. Thank you.
Thank you both for joining me. I appreciate you immensely on Book Bytes, an interview with the authors of Donjuan, of The One and Only, The Life of an Ebony Man. Thank you so much. And I look forward to talking to you soon, Myron, about any new project. And Helen, I look forward to talking to you about what you're going through now. And Helen, could you please say something briefly about what the spectacular thing is that is happening to you right now?
Right now, I am going to find out if I have been cancer free for 5 years. And once I
Yay!
find that out, then I'm gonna call the transplant surgeon and tell him that I'm ready to be evaluated.
Yes.
And then I'll be waiting. And then in the meantime, while I wait, though, I'll be working as a nurse. So there you go. Yeah. And then also going back and forth doing flight studies and stuff. Yeah.
Such a blessing, Helen. I'm so happy for
Blessings and
you.
love, Helen. Much respect.
Yes. Oh my God. So thank you so much. Have a great evening, everybody.
Okay,
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you,
Thank you,
Claudia.
Myron.
Claudia, we'll talk soon, okay?
All right then, Myron.
Yes, Claudia.
Bye-bye.
Love
Bye-bye.
you.
Love you too.